Hey, Joyce, great to see you again.
Hi, Tim. I'm so happy to be talking with you today. I hold you in a special place in my heart. You've helped me so much.
Oh, thank you. Um, Joyce, I couldn't be prouder of your new accomplishment, the financial mindset fix. And wow, I mean, what an incredible feat. I've had a chance to read it and enjoy it, and it's just really awesome. How's it feel to finish the book and be launching it?
It feels like having a baby, honestly. I have wanted to publish a book for about 10 years, and it's based on a talk that I've been giving for about that long. And I just feel so blessed to have gleaned so much wisdom from my clients as a practicing therapist for more than 20 years. And this is all the wisdom that I've gleaned from my clients, as well as my own journey as an entrepreneur. And I've just so wanted to share it with people. And I went through a lot of rejection with the book deals and things, and then finally got the deal of my dreams. And I believe in divine timing. I think it's coming out in the world at a time when a lot of people are looking to improve their financial health and their mental health. So I'm hoping the book will be useful to many.
Yeah, and one of your subtitles, mental fitness program for an abundant life. Tell
Yes.
me a little bit about that.
So the book isn't just about financial wellness. I really have come to believe that holistic success involves not only financial prosperity, but also work-life balance, personal health, mental health, and supported relationships. So this book really is a program, and each chapter is a different mindset that I've identified through my clients as being one of the keys to holistic success, including financial prosperity. And it's cool because I had a researcher, Simon Golden, work with me, and each of those mindsets is empirically proven to improve not only people's mental health, but their financial health as well. And I've got tons of exercises so people can build their skills in each of these mindsets. So it's a program, you have to do the work.
Really cool. And one of the other things that I found interesting was kind of the way that you lay out each chapter. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of the thinking behind that?
Well, each chapter starts with something from my own personal journey. And I do that because I feel like a lot of us suffer in silence and in shame about our either our mental health issues. I think we all deal with whether it's depression, anxiety, stress, grief and loss, relationship issues. And when we don't talk about it, we compare our insides to other people's outsides and think that we're the only one who has had difficulty. And so I wanted to share some of my own struggles in an authentic way, as well as my bumps along the way, which you're well familiar with as my CPA in terms of my financial life as a small business owner and entrepreneur. And my hope and intention is to normalize people's experiences and help them know that they're not alone, and and inspire them to kind of start to reflect in that same way that I have about their own journey and their own psychology of money, the way that we think about money, the way that we manage our emotions around money, and also our behaviors and relationship with money really shapes our financial reality. So that's the purpose of that. And then I share some research and sort of psychoeducation about each of these mindsets, and then have those exercises for people to dig in and either journal and reflect or use empirically proven techniques from psychology like cognitive behavioral therapy, which I use to help people stop setting their own ceilings through self-limiting beliefs and start to cultivate more abundant thinking, more expansive thinking, which I think every entrepreneur needs. I've been accused myself of psychotic optimism by my best friend Sherilyn, who you know, who is also a therapist. And I think we have to think big in order to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those exercises, to prepare for this interview, I actually, I try to work out every day, and so I went in and read and completed the exercises this morning for chapter 10, which is on detachment. And going through it kind of reminded me of working out. I could feel kind of like, when you're working out, you feel kind of, this peacefulness sometimes after you perform an exercise. There's a little pain initially as you kind of dig in and think about certain things like, like where are you stuck? And once you kind of like open up and get through that, and you have us journaling as we go through the chapter. So as I was writing down certain answers to questions, I could kind of feel this release and peace. And after I completed the chapter, kind of, there's a satisfaction to kind of charting out your answers on your wheel. And so it was like a workout. So I, in a good way, and had many of the elements. So maybe you could kind of comment on my experience and my journey this morning through chapter 10, detachment.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful analogy. And it is a mental fitness program. And just like physical fitness, we need to tend to it. And I don't think many of us regularly tend to our mental health. And there are these skills that we can develop that will help us succeed personally and professionally. And detachment, I'm so glad you did that chapter, because I think it's one of the most important keys to having inner peace, even during times of great challenge. And I think detachment is sometimes misunderstood as kind of not caring or being emotionally disconnected, but it's really a mindfulness skill to develop healthy separation from negative emotion. And for me, I went through a lot of financial anxiety during times of challenge with my business. And detachment is the practice that enabled me to calm down and move through those challenges instead of giving up and throwing in the towel. So, and I liked your point that sometimes it's uncomfortable, like physical exercise can be. I always say that therapy is a little bit like cleaning out a messy closet. If you've shoved a bunch of stuff in it and then you decide, okay, I've got to deal with this. If you're anything like me, you pull that stuff out, you put it around the room and you think, oh my gosh, I made a bigger mess of things. I should have just left it in there. So there can be some overwhelm in the process as you start to look at aspects of yourself that might be uncomfortable. But if you stick with it, you can let go of some of those things and rework some things. And now you have these new skills in your toolbox. So, next time there's an event in your life, you can have some different psychological skills to successfully move through that. And thank you for mentioning the wheel exercises. I think those are fun. And each chapter has a wheel exercise, which is sort of a self-assessment tool where you measure yourself on each of the chapter's skills. And in a perfect world, we'd all have nice, big, full, round circles. But because we're human beings and we're not perfect and we are all works in progress, sometimes we have little dents in our wheels. So, like, for example, with the self-care wheel, sometimes when I have clients or attendees of my speaking engagements complete that, they're surprised because they might be really good in one area, like you are with physical fitness, and then they might realize, oh my gosh, I'm never unplugging from technology, or I don't have work-life balance, or I'm not really connecting with nature. And so by identifying those areas of need, you can work at improving in those areas so that you can have more balance and wellness.
No, it's great. And there's so many different mindsets, it's almost like you could work on how do you how do you best use this book? Because it's a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge and wisdom on how to get the right mindset and keep it or restore it. So how should we best use this book?
Well, I really hope that it will be a manual that people will refer to at different points in their lives, because I think as different events happen in our lives or in our work, we may need to look again and revisit certain mindsets. And I think just like when I counsel clients, we all have our different areas of strength. So there may be some chapters that you're like, oh, I've got this. I'm great at asking for support. I have a huge support network and I regularly plug into it and seek advice and consultation. Or you might read it and be like, oh gosh, I guess I'm not super great about asking for help and I operate in my own silo and perhaps I'm doing myself a disservice by doing that. And so I think different chapters will resonate with different people at different points in their lives. So I hope it's a resource that people can use ongoing. And I have a fantasy of maybe someday writing a book on each chapter. And so people who really want to dive into that particular mindset, perhaps having even more resources available to do so.
Yeah, no, and the wheel in all of the different traits for a particular mindset, it seems kind of like you get the complete picture, which I think is something, like we may be walking around saying, well, I'm great at detaching when I need to, when the reality of it is, yeah, maybe you're great in most of the areas. However, there is one area where you're weak. And just like, with physical fitness, if your knee is hurting you, oftentimes, if you don't get that addressed, you end up kind of blowing out your hip or some other area. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to looking at it that way. So, I mean, am I onto something? I mean, is that kind of like what you were, where you were hoping that, we would experience that?
Yes, absolutely. They're all interconnected. So if you have a deficit in one mindset, it is going to impact some of the others. And so I think understanding those interconnections is really helpful, and something that I dream about, and I hope is that I hope people will read this book and, like you, see different insights that I didn't notice. Like, for example, I've given these wheels at conferences of therapists and had them complete them. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's a connection between self-love and asking for support. And the more you care about yourself, the more help you're going to ask for. And just different interconnections like that. And so I think that those insights will help people understand that it really is about balance, that we can have strengths in some areas, but if we don't look at the whole of us, it's going to pop up in some way or another, because I think life tries to teach us those lessons. And I like getting ahead of that and having some skills to manage those and supporting others in doing the same.
Yeah, one of the skills that comes up time and time again, I noticed, was breath work.
Yes.
Talk
Yes,
about that a little bit.
I'm a huge believer in mindfulness, and mindfulness is a practice of being rooted in the here and now. So many of us second guess the past and ruminate about past events, or we worry about the future. Right now, many people are dealing with a lot of anxiety about the uncertainty of the future. And peace really can be found in the present moment. And across thousands of cultures and thousands of years, the breath is believed to tie together the mind, the body, and the spirit. So if we connect with our breath, we can connect, I believe, with our light within, our deepest, highest self. and begin to separate from our minds or our egos or our thoughts, which we all have as part of the human condition, and tap into a deeper intuition. And that's this practice of mindfulness is empirically supported to improve physical health, mental health, your relationships, your emotional intelligence. It reduces chronic pain, and it also improves your finances. When you apply mindfulness to money, you become more conscious and aware when you're spending or if you're being reactive. So practices like deep breathing, in yoga, they call it pranayama, or meditation, which I love. And I love that so many more people are meditating these days. I love apps like Calm and Headspace, or I do Peloton and they've got an amazing meditation section. Meditation really can help us, get rooted in the here and now. I use it to help me sleep. And it helps us cultivate more consciousness and awareness that we can bring to our businesses and our relationships and all of that. So I do think that taking time for mental wellness practices like mindfulness each day is going to improve your business and your financial health. I certainly found that to be the case myself.
So one advantage that you had as you were starting your business and growing your business was being a therapist. So you sought out therapists along the way, and so like you were, as your journey of a business owner was going on, you also had a journey of mindfulness. I don't think that most business owners, when they think about starting a business and growing a business and being on the business journey, give mindfulness a second thought. How important is that? And will this book kind of give the business owner what they need to kind of grow in the mindset space as well as in the business space?
I really certainly hope so. That is my intention. And I feel like I've given a lot of practical tools and tips to develop skills like emotional intelligence. I think is absolutely critical for any business owner, because our relationships with our staff and our vendors and our clients are the keys to our success. So we need to be able to be conscious leaders, which involves being empathic and responding to the emotions of the people that we work with and managing our own emotions well. We've all had bosses that, fly off the handle or can't manage their own temper or feelings, and it's not a pleasure to work for people like that. So when a business owner is taking care of themselves in this way and cultivating their relationship skills, it is going to translate to more success in business. I think as a therapist, I really understand the importance of work-life balance. That's why I named my business Urban Balance. And to me, being a mother is my absolute highest and most important role. But I love my work and find it so rewarding, and wanted to build this business that would provide affordable and accessible therapy to people and provide good therapists with good jobs, and felt like that was part of my calling. And so having a vision and a plan for a business that would not only serve myself, but also my staff and clients and help us all with our wellness, I think that vision it's sustainable for everyone, because if just the business owner is winning, it's not going to be a sustainable business. So I think that type of reflection certainly helped me. However, not having business or financial training as a therapist definitely was a disservice to me. I like to think that I'm business minded, but I don't, none of us know what we don't know. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made was not seeking business or financial consultation sooner. And I didn't do that because of fear. I was afraid that somebody would tell me that my business model wasn't going to work, and that was my dream. I also didn't do it because of shame, because I had horrible cash flow and I felt embarrassed about that. And it was my darkest day of really being in cash flow hell and losing my business partner, who had been one of my best friends, because the stress with the business was so bad, that brought me to you. I had a friend and neighbor that I shared. I was in dire financial stress with my business, and he recommended you. And I remember crying the first time that we met as I handed over my QuickBooks file. And you were very compassionate and supportive and encouraging, and helped me tremendously, not only in your consultation and advice on how to reshape my business so that it was more to scale and could be more profitable. You also helped me with introductions to banks for the proper lending. You provided emotional support and hand-holding, during a time that was very stressful of rebuilding my business. And I'm eternally grateful. And I don't think that I'm alone. I think a lot of business owners suffer in silence and maybe don't want to spend the money even for consultation. And that's short-sighted. We all need the support of others and the wisdom of others, because we're interdependent as human beings. So I definitely had a mindset shift of then now I don't do anything without asking 5 people if they agree with my plan, because diversity of thought is always a strength. We're a lot smarter together.
And having the right mindset gives you the space to be open to actually hear those other opinions.
That's true. That's true. And I think that's ego. We all have ego, and learning to be able to observe our egos is another mindfulness practice, and to recognize when we're being defensive or resistant, which we can all be, and to consider that we might be wrong, or we might have made mistakes, and to be open to new ways of doing things. And I credit my leadership team along with you for really turning the ship around at Urban Balance. And so definitely asking them for help was another big part of the course correction. I think previously I thought I needed to be in charge as the CEO, and that was kind of foolish. You can be in charge in terms of leading the team, but the best leaders draw upon the wisdom of their team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they're right on the front lines, and they know all of the important stakeholders and oftentimes have great insight to share.
Absolutely.
And I guess along those lines, I mean, like with mindset, is there kind of a perfect balance as that comes? Because if you keep getting input from others, at what point do you say, all right, I've got enough input, I'm gonna go forward and get this done, or move to a different level?
I'm glad that you said that. And that is about decision making and taking action and taking responsibility. And in my therapy practice and my coaching practice, I think a lot of people spend almost too long contemplating or planning. And at some point you have to pull the trigger and just do it. And I think fear sometimes keeps people from making those decisions. And so that's why I think that detachment chapter is helpful, because it teaches some risk tolerance that, I've counseled people who've written a book or a screenplay, or they have a business plan, and they haven't put it out in the world because they're afraid, or they're dealing with perfectionism, which is another aspect of ego. And so I think that the tools in the book will be very helpful with those issues as well.
Right. And there is a chapter on responsibility as well. So it's almost like you could, if you're faced with a decision, you could go into the book and say, all right, I'm gonna kind of get my mindset on that I need, and read and do the exercises in the responsibility chapter and the detachment chapter. And it's kind of like you said, a manual, all right, so I'm going to go and fix my brain the way that it needs to be for this upcoming event or task at hand.
Yes, all of our brains need fixing from time to time. That's for sure. Maybe I should have named it the brain fix instead of the financial mindset fix. But yeah, the responsibility piece, I mean, that's something I've seen in my practice too. The difference between people who are like, it's always somebody else's fault, it's never my fault, or they're stuck in kind of a victim narrative instead of kind of taking the reins and empowering themselves to create change. So I hope that chapter will help people really move forward by being empowered. And I think, another huge thing that you helped me with was the sale of my business, which since I've sold Urban Balance, I've had probably over 100 therapists say, I didn't know you could sell a practice. And so that's more of that expansive thinking, and also what you taught me about having an exit strategy and how important that is. And I was so fortunate to have multiple offers, and really had to work hard at negotiating, which is another aspect that's covered in the book, that I think we all need to work on, that healthy assertiveness and being creative and asking for what we would want in a perfect world, which is sometimes hard to do.
Right. And I love that one story that you told about being in the meeting with 4 gray-haired buyers. Go ahead, share that one. That's a good one.
Oh, thank you. And that I think was in the detachment chapter.
Yes.
I was meeting with 4 prospective buyers. They were together as a group, and they asked me if the uncertainty of healthcare in our country made me nervous, since I built my entire business on accepting insurance. And I replied flatly, no, it doesn't. And they were all like, they laughed actually, because I think they might have thought I was an idiot, or maybe they thought I was a total badass and were really smart. They ended up actually making an offer, which it was a high offer, and I didn't end up accepting it for other reasons, but and I went with somebody who was a better fit, Refresh Mental Health. But yeah, I had to learn how to detach, because there's always something in the economy, in the world, as technology changes, and we can get really freaked out, or we can stay the path. And detachment helps us, like, okay, there's always that noise out there. It helps us stay the course without excessive worry about what may or may not ever happen.
Plus, you can enjoy every situation, even a very, high stakes, stressful meeting like that, where you can entertain a thought like, they might think I'm an idiot or a badass, all in the same thought. I mean, when you're open and you're detached and you're able to kind of expand your mind to kind of entertain everything potentially, I think then you can really enjoy yourself. And a lot of times in doing exit planning, it's like, well, when I retire, my life is going to start. I'm going to start traveling. I'm going to see my kids. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And then, you're hanging your hat in all of your happiness and enjoyment along the way on this exit, versus, like, hey, let's get things the way they need to mindset. business, so that I'm enjoying the journey. I don't need to
Yeah.
retire. And that puts you in a spot where when you're in that meeting with the potential buyers, you're totally detached. Like, well, sure, yeah, what do you want to pay for this? And it's a great business. I'm loving life. I mean, that is the ultimate position as a seller to be in.
Yeah, I think because I wasn't in need of selling, there wasn't any pressure. It was a choice because I wanted to free myself to write books and do more public speaking and kind of get some of my risk off the table. But I was able to invest in the parent company, which was fantastic. So that was a win-win, kind of getting the CEO stress off my plate. But I think that applying mindfulness during those meetings was really what helped me select the best buyer for me. I really paid attention to how I felt in my body during the meetings. So if I felt sick to my stomach or stress or tension or discomfort or not fully trusting what I was being told, if it didn't feel like the words and my feeling were aligning, then I knew something was wrong. So I think cultivating those skills is very, very useful for negotiation and business decisions. And definitely think that helped me select the right buyer for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, hats off to you. And I think, that might be lacking with many business owners, is just knowing how to work and fix their mindset before those important meetings. So I'm really thankful to have this manual on how to get it done. I mean, I think, many business owners are do-it-yourselfers. And so having the tools available, I mean, as as a business owner, I mean, by the time you get around to working on your mindset, it might be, 11 o'clock at night, or it might be 4 a.m. It's not like you're going to be sitting in a therapist's office, but you still have the work to do if you really want to show up ready.
Absolutely. And I think this book can be useful at different stages of life as well. And I've had some people say, wow, this is really helpful also for people in their 20s or early 30s that are adulting, kind of, to develop some of these skills earlier on. And then, for us kind of Gen Xers, I think it's a tune-up. It's a mental wellness tune-up, and some of the things we may never have looked at in our lives. And even I'm doing a podcast on how the book's helpful for boomers, and people who are retiring. How can it improve their financial health at that point in the game? And I fully believe that it can and will.
And one of the other things that I know about you is that you're an awesome mom. How have you incorporated some of this mindset fixing, as you have raised, such beautiful daughters?
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the way I live my life, and it's the example that I try to set for my kids. And I listen to my kids and the feedback that they give to me. And I remember when my daughter Celeste I think she was in about second grade, she said, "Mom, you're at my school the perfect amount." She said, "Not so much that you're like those moms that maybe that's what their life is, kind of." And she said, "And not never like some of the moms that are working a million hours a week." And she's like, you're because I would take her to school and pick her up and then see my clients while she was, in school, and do some billing and things in the evening after my kids went to bed. And so I've definitely made the work-life balance an important part, and taught my kids a lot about mental health. I've had them in therapy. I think we all need a therapist at different points in our lives, and it takes a village. And so I practice what I preach as well.
Great. And then one of the other things I can't help but asking, like with kids, just this whole, like, what's the impact on mindset of the electronics? Like we're kind of attached to our phones and
Oh my gosh.
what,
I have in the book the importance of unplugging from technology, because it's affected us cognitively, emotionally, socially. And so there needs to be some time away from screens. And I can't imagine what it's like being raised during the age of social media and how difficult that is in terms of self-esteem. And the research shows that, the more kids are on it, the more depressed and anxious they're going to feel, and self-esteem plummets. So I think that it's really important for us to use technology as a tool, but also to mindfully unplug from it, connect with each other, with nature, and in other ways that we would have before we had all of these devices. And so that's another important part of holistic wellness as well.
so kind of like, it can be helpful. Even you mentioned some apps like Headspace and other meditation apps. So it can be a positive, because it's helping you kind of go inside and kind of refresh and rejuvenate yourself.
Yeah, I always sent my kids to Camp Echo, a YMCA camp every summer for 2 or 3 weeks. They loved it so much, and there's no phones there. And just to see how different they were afterwards, and their confidence level after learning new skills like archery or boating or something. And it's important for kids to have that separation sometimes.
For sure. No, that is great. And so any reader could use, these mindsets with their kids if they wanted to, if they're struggling with
Yes,
something to help
I use a lot of detachment with my teenagers for sure.
them.
And self-care. Like I notice, I talk about we each have our own internal battery, like as if we were a cell phone. And so I ask myself, where's my battery at? And sometimes my battery will be pretty charged, and then I'll be with my teenagers that I can just feel it draining. And that's when you pay attention to that, that's a red flag that it's time to infuse yourself with some self-care, like go for a run or do some meditation or go talk to a friend to fill your cup again, so that you can be a good parent, and that we don't allow ourselves to become so depleted that then we're frustrated and not behaving in the way that we want to with our kids.
Cool. And one of the mindsets that, is something that kind of I've always felt is important is the one about the positive mindset. Can you be too positive?
I think you can be too positive. I think, we need to be grounded in reality in some ways. But I think practicing gratitude is such an easy way to develop a more positive mindset. And a lot of that chapter is about how you put yourself out in the world. So that's the chapter that I talk about expanding your comfort zone and trying new things and negotiating and being assertive. So again, I think there's a difference in business between people who, so often people will say that won't work. I can't do that. That's not possible. And it's the entrepreneurs and business owners that have that positive mindset that there's always a workaround. There's always a way to figure things out. And if you are creative and you think outside of the box and you believe it's possible, you're going to be a lot more effective at problem solving and moving through those challenges. So I think it's a really important mindset. That they talk about toxic positivity, and that's, if you're not honoring the other side of things, then it's not a full truth. So it's still holding the, the hardship that we experience and honoring that, but then really working at recalibrating our attitudes so that we're putting ourselves out in the world with positivity.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, your company, Urban Balance, having like the balanced positivity where you can hold the other person, at a similar level.
Yes, exactly.
Well, this has been really awesome. What an opportunity to spend time with you, one of my favorite people, and
Oh,
great, really, you've got such an inspiring story and have overcome so much and accomplished so many things. And I mean, even before the book, and now this book is just really incredible. Joyce, how do people find you, and what's the best way to get the book? And
thank you so much, Tim. You're so kind. I so appreciate you. People can find the book at financialmindsetfix.com. That's a page on my website, and it has links to Amazon and Target, Walmart, Indie Books, and other places that the book can be purchased. It is available now for pre-sale. It will be released on July 27th. And it's also available in audiobook. I got to do the narration for that, which was fun. So that's an option as well. And it will be published in Spanish later this year. So, and then my website is joycemarter.com, and that's Marter. And so I'd love to be a support and resource to anyone. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on social media. And I love to help people, any way I can. So feel free to reach out.
well, you've helped me a lot in expanding, the consulting and work with businesses that I do to include mindset.
I love that. That makes me so, so happy. Thank you.
So thank you, and really appreciate your time and your excellent work, the financial mindset fix.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye, Joyce.
Bye.